There's been some drama going on Twitter. As always. When is there not drama happening on Twitter? People fight over everything, man. I can literally talk about how like dogs are the best. I can tweet dogs are the best, and someone will go like, shut up, METALBIRB, cats are better, you suck. Like, it's very annoying. But I did think that this was kind of interesting. So Omerta, which is like a new metalcore band inspired by anime and I guess some mathcore. They're very cool. They're a really cool band. I saw them live. Super nice dudes too. They're young, upcoming. They kick ass. Their music is pretty damn creative. So they kind of went a little bit viral on the metalcore Twitter because they tweeted out this. It's a retweet to Wind Waker's new album announcement. The artwork looks kind of AI. Looks AI. To me, I'm a little bit conflicted about the whole AI debacle. You can use it as a tool, but I understand that it's a lot of graphic designers are kind of like losing work because the simplicity of AI, right? So there's a whole argument to be had about AI art. But Omerta, the band Omerta retweeted this, and they had a lot to say. So bear with me as I read this out. There's something fascinating about how the advent of AI tooling has simultaneously enabled and culled out the creatively bankrupt who have made entire careers LARPing as artists. Aside from the obviously AI generated cover art and suspiciously familiar album title, there is nothing hyper violent here. This is exactly why we have time and time again advocated for violent art. So Wind Waker's album is called Hyperviolence. For a while now, there has been a trend among our peers toward incorporating dated pop production, recycling uninspired gent riffing, and incredibly vapid, lacking in any chromaticism melodic chord progressions. In seemingly every other genre, including specific subgenres of alternative music, creative evolution seems to reflect the milieu. Now, for whatever reason, this has not been the case among the metalcore, redditor, basement, gent, white bread, Sirius XM core crowd who might be allergic to innovation, even preferring cheap nostalgia bait over anything dangerous enough to skirt the edge. Case in point, the soy distant hyperpop metal tag when the pioneers of hyperpop themselves have proclaimed it dead for years. So it's like a fucking essay over here. It's kind of like word vomit a little bit, to be honest, but the last paragraph goes on to say, there is a reason the recently disaffected have found more solace in communities and styles of art / music outside of the strangely primitive and pedestrian scene. When the descendants and estranged seek out their place in this world, what exactly is this supposed to be alternative to? This defanged, neutered, and lobotomized slop is the consequence of years of propping up uninteresting people with absolutely nothing compelling to say. We need art, dangerous, chaotic, intentional, unafraid, antisocial, violent art. Then they put a photo of this, Hyperviolence, album by Omerta. I'm not too sure what they're trying to do with this photo, to be completely honest. All right, so Future Burb here with an edit. So Omerta actually put out an album called Hyperviolence 2 years prior to Wind Waker having an album called Hyperviolence as well. So the band has a personal reason for defending themselves, but in the replies, Wind Waker did reply to this by saying cry about it and then tweeted out this photo, which means Wind Waker's album art is not AI. For me, there's clearly a point about AI art, which I'm not going to get into. I've talked about AI art before in other videos that you can watch, but I'm going to talk about what they think is metalcore redditor, basement gent, white bread, Sirius XM core crowd. They're kind of arguing this need for creating art that is dangerous, chaotic, intentional, unafraid, antisocial, blah, 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 blah. That's from our artistic visual point, but they're also talking about the music too in a lot of ways, where I mentioned I don't know if the word disdain, I won't use the word disdain, but Octane Core is not my favorite. It's not my kind of go-to preference in style of music. As you guys know, when I tend to review those kind of songs, it tends to be misses. However, I don't really rate them lower than 5, and that's because I still can enjoy them. I see the merit in them. There's still value in songs that have a little bit more simplistic structure and simplistic flow, but then there's also the importance of innovation and creativity. Because if we didn't have these bands that are constantly trying to push the envelope and constantly every other band just recycling the same regurgitated sound that just almost dumbs down the listener in a way, then the music would be so stale and would be irrelevant. So we need these bands to push this chaotic, intentional, unafraid, antisocial, whatever, violent kind of art. But I do want to say that to give you a little bit more context with this tweet, a lot of people are standing with Omerta. They're really saying that finally a band is kind of like going off and saying it how it is. So a lot of people are actually agreeing with it and saying that this is a win in Omerta's books. So it has 1.1 favorites. I favored it too because I thought it was bold of them to actually kind of call this out. I mentioned that Omerta is bold to call out Octane Core, and I absolutely agree to an extent. I find the heavy music scene has recently been at its most creative and innovative these past few years. Honestly, like when we on these live streams, guys, you always show me like a bunch of cool bands. We hear a lot of the same metalcore, but I really feel like this community is good to show others here, like a bunch of weird bands that don't just fit metalcore. It's a weird culmination of like different genre ideas. I feel like maybe like 70% of the music that we hear, yeah, it's a lot of like samey kind of stuff, but then there's a lot of bands that are trying new things. Also, with all the oversaturation of music is not just a metalcore thing, it's not a core thing. You can only assume in hip hop it's just as bad. In niche genres and maybe even like trap metal is just as bad too. But with all this competition breeds innovation. That's the other thing. So as much as oversaturated this scene is, it's almost a blessing in disguise because it pushes these other bands to be more creative, to stand out. And I really think that's why the core scene right now is one of the, if not the healthiest it's ever been. Healthiest it's ever been from an artistic standpoint. Now, commercial standpoint, you know, the early 2000s was still peak. But we're getting there. We're getting there with this new generation in terms of commercial success too. Look, the Metalcore Redditor, Basement Gent, White Bread Series XM crowd are listeners who don't have the want or need to be musically challenged, or they're newbies who are getting into heavy music. There's listeners who don't need dangerous, chaotic, intentional, unafraid, antisocial, violent art, but instead safe, easy, fun, accessible, satisfying art, because gateway music is important to get the larger demographic into the scene. When it comes to accessible gateway music, you need those kind of bands. You need the bands that are a little bit more easy listening. The way that I see music in a simple kind of fashion is like just like video game ratings, where it goes from easy, medium to hard, right? A band like Metallica, Linkin Park, that's easy. That's super easy level. But then from there, like if you keep playing on easy mode, it gets boring. It gets boring after some time. You want to challenge yourself like most people do, right? So then you start to get into the medium level bands, which could be maybe like Spirit Box. Bad Omens is probably still easy mode. Sleep Token's probably easy mode. But you know what I mean, right? And then hard mode or just like extreme mode would be some like maybe like Omerta would fall into hard mode, right? You want to be challenged as a listener, but then what the whole point of this is that you need simplistic music to satisfy the newbies to the scene, but also at the same time, we need music that's just, for me personally, I also like simple, dumbed down music. I don't mind a verse, chorus song. If the chorus is really good, that's fine by me, right? Safe, easy music has a place for everything, because if every band was progressive and just innovative, then it would seem oversaturated, right? If every band was just crazy and out there, then that wouldn't feel creative. So on the flip side, a band who's very simplistic and just doing a verse, chorus would be refreshing. It's like, whoa, what is that? Right? So there's always going to be a balance. You're always going to need a balance. So music is subjective and based off personal experiences. So everyone's listening needs are different. And honestly, I know this more than ever now with doing the reaction channel. Beforehand, you know, I felt like I was like in a little bit of my own bubble and just thinking my music tastes the best. And now with this community and you guys sharing music all the time, I always know that, you know, the certain person in the chat, I'm like, okay, I know you like the more big choruses, you like the more hooky songs, and then someone else in the chat likes the more avant-garde stuff. Like, music is so incredibly subjective and based off personal experiences and how you grew up that everyone craves something a little bit different. So that's why I'm trying to not say any song is really necessarily bad, because everyone just has different feelings and attachments towards songs. So I'm trying to do my best to say it's not for me. I understand that some songs are just not for me, but I understand that it would fit for a certain kind of demographic. So yes, we need art that pushes boundaries to breed innovation, but we also need safe, accessible art for casual music listeners. We need a balance of both, and that is why I believe we're in a very healthy time for core music. I, however, personally love being challenged musically, and luckily Omerta backs up what they're saying because their new song fucks. Charade.
To be by myself. I've been a slave to shame, always a lame loser in this game. We play the charade, the charade. To disappear now. Perhaps I will disappear forever. So if you want me gone for good, you have to rip my feet.
Still no metal? What the hell?
What? Bitch! What's going to do? Get something just nothing through. Direction I already knew. You're ready to make rage and cooperation.
So my thoughts on this is that I think that there needs to be a balance of both, but I appreciate that Omerta is actually being bold in a community that is all unison, but also kind of afraid to speak their truth a little bit, because once you really speak your truth, you can alienate yourself from your peers. But I'm curious to know what your guys' thoughts are, because this is definitely a very interesting topic, the whole generic core, octane core to something very experimental, and just art in general is subjective to, we need change, we need innovation, but we also need things that are a little bit more simplistic in nature. Gotta give him props for having balls to say something. Yeah, seriously, like again, just talking to bands and musicians, a lot of them kind of hold back their opinions online, which a lot of them tell me like, oh dude, I could never have a reaction channel. Like I would not survive having a reaction channel because of the amount of opinions that they have.